Hello, welcome to the Python for AML part 1 of basics. So in the previous video, we have discussed about what are variables and how variables should be and what are the types that we can write a variable. And then followed by we also discussed about data types that Python has, basic data types which are plain int, float, string, and boolean. And then finally, we also discuss how to convert from one data type into other data type. Right? So this video is a continuation of Python basics part 1. So in this video, we'll be discussing about print functions and input functions. Print functions are nothing but if you want to display something to the user, then we may use print functions. So print function will help you with display anything you want to the users or anyone. For example, let's say if you want to display something to hello world something to the user, then you can use print of. Then whatever you write between this print function, that will be displayed right to the user. For example, print of hello world, print of hello world. Then when you execute, you can see this hello world. You can also display the value of any variable, right? You can display the value of any variable. What if there is no such a variable exist? Then in that case, you get an error. See? Either you should have a valid variable or your string should be enclosed within quotes. Okay, do I need to add in quotes even to display a numbers? No. In that case, you can just like that, you can write any number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Only for that's a rule number 2 that we discussed in the previous video. Whenever you write some user defined string in anywhere in the program, that should be enclosed between quotes. That is what it is, right? You see that here, right? You have to enclose between quotes because it's a user defined string. I define that hello world. Okay. So for example, if you want to display some float or decimal number, again you don't need to give quotes, because as long as it is an integer or floats, you don't need to give quotes between quotes. Only for string, that rule is applicable. Now you know what how the print function is working. What if I want to display multiple statements or multiple things? It's simple. You can just use print of, right? Or what we can do is we just copy this, right? And then we add into this. Now we have multiple type, okay? Multiple type of variables. Now we can, if we execute this, you'll get the output. You can also change the way it displays by adding step. If you want to have it in each line, then you should give slash in. This will create a new line for everything. See, you can change it something like T tab. So if you want to have some tab distance between each of this, then you can see tab, right? Or if you want just to have a new line, it's better to have a new line. Okay. So this will also change the way it displays the stuff. Okay. So this is what a print function. Print function will just display whatever you write it and how you want to display it. That's it. Right. So that's a output function. Just consider that as an output because you want to send your output to the real-time user. So we can use this print that will display the case. Okay. Now we'll discuss about how we can use print function. For example, I'm going to take one statement. Okay, I'm commenting that statement because we are going to use print to display them. I bought 3 kgs of apple. for 148.25 rupees. Okay. Now, out of this, I'm going to use multiple variables. Okay. For 3 kg, which is our weight, I'm going to use a variable called weight 3. And then for our fruit, which is apple, I'm going to create a new variable fruit. And then cost. That's also a new variable for our price of 148.35. Now, our task is to create this statement with the help of variable, because in later I can even change the fruit name just by, instead of writing everything, I can just change the value in the variable. I can just change the fruit, I can change the weight, I can change the cost. Okay. So now what we are going to do is we are going to use this print function and these variables to display that particular statement. To do that, we have four different methods. Okay. To do that, we have a four different methods. Method 1, print off just by using comma. Right. Method 1 is just by using comma. Let me put it this way. Method 1 using comma. Okay. In this case, I bought comma. Okay. And then our weight comma. And then we have kgs of comma. Our fruit variable will come here, and then for is not a variable, for again comma, your cost again comma, and finally you have this rupees. Now we can see I bought 3 kgs of apple for 140. Whereas in the actual statement, there is no space between this 148 and then rupees. But here we have some space because comma by default will add some space. Comma by default will add some space. That is why you can see the space here. Now method 2. Method 2 is based on our typecasting. Right? Method 2 is based on the typecasting. I am going to convert string everything into string, and then I'm going to do one thing, string concatenation. Okay, so using typecast, the string concatenation is nothing but when you add two string, then you get like this, a plus p, or let's say a plus op, then you get aop all together. This is what string concatenation. Now this is what I'm going to do for our method 2. For that, same print of, okay, I bought space, okay, since it's a plus, and then our weight is not a string, so I'm going to convert weight into string and then adding it. Again, you have this kgs of, you have to give space because comma will give space, whereas this string concatenation will not add any space. Now fruit, it's already a string, you don't need to convert that into case. Again, for space for, and then you have cost is again not a string, you have to convert that into string. Then finally you have this rupees. Now you got the exact result of the our expected one, because there is no space between the cost value and the rupees. Okay, but you have to keep in the both these methods, you have to remember either this comma or this plus, because if you miss one plus or one comma, then you end up with getting an error. Okay, so it's very important to remember that. So this is method 1 and method 2. Method 3 is the standard format, standard way that how we used to write it, right? Print I bought. So here I may get something. What is that something? I will get some integer. So modulus d for integer. Okay, modulus d for integer. Kgs of, again you get string, So modulus yes, okay, or modulus f for float value rupees, followed by you have to use the same modulus, open and close parenthesis, whatever the variable you have weight, the same order, fruit, comma, cost. You got this. Whereas this, you can see there is a lot of zeros here, so I'm going to use 0.2f. Okay, 0.2f means after decimal you need only two values. Okay, now you can see the exact output what we expected. But here there's one thing you have to understand, what variable, what type of variable should come. The method 2 and 3 kind of similar, because you have to remember what are the data types of each and every variable that is going to come there, right? So that may be difficult in some cases because you can't remember everything. If you miss it, that's you will get an error. But when compared to all these commas and this plus symbol, it's easy to write it because you write everything in one single statement, right? A method 4 is much more easier than method 3, right? That is my favorite too. Just you write everything like this, but instead you start with f because it's a formatted method. Wherever you need some variable, you just use the same way with something like this. That's it. So then and there you write a variable directly, but by just mentioning as a placeholder. Now just because you added this f format, you can see the variable names as it is. Now you don't need to think about its data types. You don't need to think about its position, nothing. All you can do is just use the variable name within curly braces. Consider that as a placeholder. Now you got the exact output. Much easier and efficient method than other three. My favorite too. So it's easier so that you don't need to think about their data type. You don't need to think about their anything else, right? Whether you need 2 decimal point or 3 decimal point, I think just you include it and then you can write it. So these are the different methods of using print functions when it comes to merging multiple things in your display. Then this is how you print it, right? Now we have completely understood what is print function, how we can use this output function and all this thing. Next we are going to discuss about input functions, the function that we use to get input from the user. Okay, let me create a heading of input functions. Okay, that's our next concept. Input functions, just simple, exact opposite the print statement. If you use print, whatever you write inside that will be displayed to the user. Now if you want to get something from the user, then you have to use input functions, right? That's a input function. Okay, now you cannot just like that do something like, okay, now I assign this input function some variable so that whatever I get from the user will be assigned to this variable. Let's just make it this random number. Okay, I'm expecting user to enter some random number, but there is nothing here, just it is asking for some number, right? But this is not the right way to do it. When you are asking something from the user, it has to be very clear, right? I'm going to add input. So for that I'm going to add a prompt message. I'm going to add a prompt message. Whatever you write inside this parenthesis, input of parenthesis, that's called prompt message. Input, enter your first name, space. Now you see, enter your first name, John. Okay, enter. Now you got your input from the user. When you print this first name, you get the John. Okay, even you can, if you want to change, you can change it to William. So the next rule you have to remember, whenever you ask something from the user, your prompt message should be very, very clear, right? Now I'm going to ask is John or William's phone number. So I'm going to use another variable phone number, input of enter your 10-digit phone number. Okay. So now user may enter number for sure, right? Let's make it this 98765432110. It's 10 number. Now, in the first case, user entered William as a string, whereas in the second case, user entered number as number, some number, integer, right? Then just if you just copy that and check for its type, it's integer. We know that. But when you use input function, the Python will convert everything into string object. Though user entered a number which is an integer, but still Python's input function will convert that into a string object. So whenever you are planning to do some arithmetic operations on the user's input, you have to do typecasting on the user's input. Okay, because by default input functions will convert everything into string. Okay, so that let's say if you are doing some multiplications with the user's input, then you have to convert into integer or float, and then you do your multiplications or any operation that you want to do it. Okay, so that is very important when you are dealing with input function. Okay, so far in this video we discussed about print function and how to use input function. In the next video, we will discuss about operators, what are the different types of operators and how to use that operators. Thank you so much. Thank you for participating. Have a great day ahead.